If you've ever done business in the Philippines or had to get a permit or file something with the local government, then you're probably aware of the corruption issues, or I guess our perception of corruption, right? If you're from the West, like I am, then you're used to pretty basic things. You're told you need to get paperwork done, A, B, C, you turn it in, it moves on to the next process. Well, in the Philippines, it's a little bit different than that. So, for example, you might want to get a new building permit. So you get the list of all the requirements, you fill out all of your paperwork, you bring in all of your copies, your transcripts, everything's notarized, filled out, and ready to go. You go into the government office, you sit there and you wait, and then you find out that maybe one of the forms isn't quite acceptable and they want you to make a little change. Or maybe the person that you had an appointment with that you're told you need to get their signature for the next step is out of the office. Or things just don't quite line up and the requirements keep changing. More steps are added into it, additional layers. But if you just maybe make a friendly gesture towards the person who's helping you at that point in time, they might speed things up a little bit faster for you. Maybe you don't necessarily have to get an additional form. So it's a term called lagay. I know I'm butchering that, but it translates as grease or lubricate. So it's you grease the wheels to get production moving. And it's a fact of life in the Philippines. So recently, my wife and I worked on a construction project that's taken the last, 2.5 years to complete. And not because of delays, really, that's just how long the project took. But when it was finally all said and done and we were ready to get our electrical hooked up, we went into the local power company that handles this area of Novaliches where the house is at. We filled out all the paperwork and we sat down with the clerk who was very helpful for us. Again, this is a private company, but it falls under the same kind of corruption issues that the government's going to have too. But we did all of the steps we needed and we were brought to a separate desk where the person who was helping us suggested that we might need to have an inspector come out on site to view the property before they gave us the final sign off on the permit. Well, that inspector, when he showed up on site, let us know just how difficult it was to get all the way out there to meet with us and how tired he was and how hungry he was. And we offered a thank you for him coming out on site to come all that way. Just a little thank you. And boy, did that speed up the process. So the inspector came out, reviewed the situation, said things look great, no problem, you're gonna be all set up. And then nothing happened. Weeks went by. We didn't hear from anybody. And it turns out there was a different inspector that needed to come out to approve an upgrade to the power lines. That other inspector didn't want to do it unless we were on site at the job site. He didn't want to meet with the foreman. He wanted to meet with the owners. And it was the same kind of scenario. So week after week after week went by, and finally a nice bottle of wine and an offer to help pay for his meal for his family later that evening for the inconvenience. And lo and behold, the inspector showed up. I'm not complaining, right? It is what it is. But coming from the United States, where the corruption is there, right? We know it's just as corrupt, but it's, I guess, more hidden. To come into the Philippines and see that corruption is just part of the culture and it's accepted as part of the culture. For me, it was incredibly frustrating until I just realized that it's not being done out of maliciousness or malcontent, but I think you look at some of the deeper root causes and you're dealing with somebody that might be making a fraction of what they probably should for their job. And this is a way to supplement some of that income. Again, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's just become kind of an accepted process. So once you become comfortable with this and you know that this is the way it's going to be, boy, does it make things move a lot smoother. And then obviously you're going to have to factor that into whatever your building costs are or your business plan. It's going to have to be an additional expense that you think about. And it's not a lot of money, right? In the big scheme of things, I think it was probably an extra $100 we spent over this 6 or 7 month period. But had we spent that up front, just known that, yep, we're going to need to help grease the wheels a little bit, we could have got things done in a fraction of the time. So I guess the point I'm trying to get to is don't be cheap. Just understand that this is the way the culture is here, and you're going to need to pay up a little bit more. The unfortunate part is the way the system has come together is it really benefits those that have the means to pay for those additional services or to pay for those thank yous. Which, yes, I actually am very, very glad that I can afford it because it speeds things up and it moves things along for me quite well. But what about the average Joe or the average middle class income here in the Philippines? They don't have the means to do that. So you're finding that things just don't get done. And that may be one of the reasons why we have so many people just skirting the building codes, not bothering to pull permits. And then you're pirating into the electrical, you're pirating into the water system, you're building lean-tos where a house shouldn't go. And folks just tend to look the other way because they know that they're not going to get that grease that they need if they do anything about it. I don't know, just one man's thought, adding a little bit of frustration, but at the end of the day, once you get used to it and you're comfortable with the system, it goes a lot smoother.